These stimulus checks that were given out through the course of the pandemic, the like couple of times when the government actually pretended it cared about what was happening to us as we were dying in mass numbers, were intended to go to people who were suffering economically. And in fact, they had built-in income caps to make sure that people over a certain point weren't getting that money. Now, we can have a very interesting conversation, I think, about means testing for a variety of social programmings, but there was mean testing for these. Or was there really? Because IRS records reveal that apparently 18 billionaires and 250 other people with massive fortunes also were able to get those checks. ProPublica has done some great work on this. We want to give you the details. So the full $1,200 under the CARES Act, for instance, was limited to single taxpayers who'd reported $75,000 a year or less in income on their previous tax return. Slightly more, obviously, if you're in a couple, and the money was sent automatically if you qualified under those thresholds. The wealthy taxpayers who received the stimulus checks got them because they came in under that income threshold. Well, how the hell did they do that? They clearly make more money. Well, they reported way less taxable income than the $75,000 individual cap. Some of them hundreds of millions of dollars less after they used their business write-offs to wipe out their gains. So for instance, 270 taxpayers who collectively disclosed $5.7 billion in income, according to their tax return, all were able to use deductions to wipe out the entirety of those billions of dollars. They had negative income despite being billionaires and growing massively in wealth during that time. As one example, Timothy Headington is an oil mogul. Ooh, those are fun. There's only certain types of people that get to be called moguls. Oil is one of the last remaining ones. But anyway, he executive produced movies like Argo and World War Z, so you can feel about him whatever you want based on those things. But he's worth $1.4 billion. Back in 2018, he had $62 million in income. He wrote off 342 million, which means that he lost supposedly $291 million, making less somehow than you or I, and so he got the check. And by the way, Dan, like I'm gonna let you come in now. It's not that like it's the worst thing ever that they got the checks, but look at how easy to manipulate all of this is for the wealthy. That they can get these little middling things that are intended for you or I just by playing games with the numbers.
Money time with Dan from the internet. So yeah, like this can seem like a lot of information, but like the way I can put it like this, deductions are meant for like people who have businesses or entities like that to be able to say, hey, sometimes it costs money to be able to have all these things, that buy these things to help my business run. So I can sort of deduct some of those costs at my taxes at the end of the year so I don't just completely sink the business, right? Those are fine mechanisms, but there's oftentimes no cap to those things. And that's how you get this result where people can spend and live lavishly to points at which are far beyond what you need, not just for a basic existence, but for a very comfortable existence. So the idea that, oh, these people need to be spending $68 million in every single year just in order to, get by. So they aren't just thrown out on the street. There's nothing that's expensive yet in order to live in, right? So so you might be wondering, okay, where are they getting so much money that they can write it off and they have negative income? That clearly implies they have income or they have wealth somewhere else. And that gets to the ProPublica piece that has billionaires like Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos so upset because it pointed out that because of the phrase income and how we have an income-based tax system, if you just report your income as little as possible and use one of the any number of financial instruments there are out there to hold your money or make your money grow, which are more and more accessible to you as you get even more money, then you can start to play all these little tax games. Like you said, John, you can be extremely rich and still get a random $1,200 from the government because hey, what the hell? You can get like a nice dinner one day at that kind of level if you're living the $68 million lifestyle. All the while, really fast, people will complain, oh, there's so much government waste, there's so much government spending. And that's true, there really is a lot of government waste. But then people point to like supposed welfare queens or supposed like drug addicts who are like homeless or whatever, instead of pointing at, okay, there are people in suits who already have money who are just getting random amounts of money that are meant to support people who, yeah, you like ostracize and characterize the worst people in society. But like we all agree, there are people who could be doing better with this money. So let's actually think about the problem and not just think about lazy scapegoats to attack people, because that's what our political side is doing.
Yeah, 100%. And by the way, I put up a poll just asking, as a general rule, if people support means testing, because that for me is actually the least important part of this, but it is a part of it. And right now, yes is at 41%, no is at 59%. And this really isn't about this. The absolute amount of money is not much. I mean, look, if they got the full 2,400, well, if there's 18 of them, I'm not great at math or anything, but that's not that much money as a percentage of the overall budget. But it really gets into the point that Dan was making, that we have figured out a way that they can continue to get richer and richer and richer and not have any income. You and I have income because we get a check, we get wages or whatever, and that counts. But nothing else counts, even if it's 1,000 times bigger, 1,000,000 times bigger. And that just can't stand, which is why I think it's a good thing that over the past few years, you've heard more and more about wealth taxes, which can come in many different forms, and many different ones have been proposed over the past few years. Notably, they haven't really gone anywhere, but that is gonna have to be a bigger part of the conversation going forward because of reporting like this, as well as Dan mentioned, the previous reporting about the taxes for some of the wealthiest people. If we could bring up that chart again, you'll see people like Jeff Bezos and Bloomberg and Elon Musk. They pay nothing on the money they make. We can actually go to the later one as well with the little tiny heads. They are benefiting massively from this system, from our labor, from the country, its infrastructure, its stability, all of those things. We all benefit. They're benefiting more, and thus they can pay more into it. But they're not. They're paying less than you as a percentage of their income, when obviously they can afford to pay far more and still be galactically wealthy. Any final thoughts, Dan?
No, I think you capped it off really well.
Oh, thank you. I like that final thought. That was a great one. Let's add that to the end of everything. Anyway, by the way, there was a component in Build Back Better that was supposed to help deal with this negative, income. It would have done so by restricting the ability to use business losses to wipe out other types of income like capital gains and dividends. Instead, business deductions would only offset business income, which seems reasonable to me. I guess, I mean, again, I don't own a coal company or anything, but that seems reasonable. And again, how did that do? The billionaires paid a very tiny amount of money to buy politicians, and they wiped out the taxes. So.
No, but you don't understand. So many people were blowing up Joe Manchin's like phone lines. Regular people every day who are like, listen, I want to support you and I want better benefits from Democrats. But what really bothers me, what really grinds my gears, is the deductions that I can't take on my business because of my capital gains.
See, you're joking, but that is literally what Manchin said in their earlier story. They're sitting in the holler and they don't have dental insurance, and they just don't want people to not be able to report negative income to avoid income taxes. These are serious people, we're told. For more political news breakdowns, interviews, stories of activism, and me trying my hardest to care about the occasional big celebrity news story, subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/The Damage Report. And you can ring the bell wherever it is so you don't miss anything.